At first glance, it seems like the brand new Mazda CX-50 is here to steal the light away from the CX-5. And it might have done that for now. However, I think the CX-5 might actually still be the better SUV, and today I'm going to explain why. Subscribe and hit the bell for notifications if you enjoy fun, detailed car content on vehicles from every category, new and used. Thank you. I apologize that this isn't my usual scenic location for shooting, but I just had this brief opportunity here, so I had to take it. I made a full review on the 2022 CX-5 recently, so if you want my full thoughts there, you can check out that video. First, we'll start out with the big stuff, but then I'll get into some of the nitty-gritty details and the differences between the two. So when it comes to engines, you're gonna have a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated inline 4 as standard with both CX-5 and CX-50. And the optional engine is a turbocharged version of that, making a lot more power. So those numbers get knocked down to 227 and 310 if you're on regular, which is still more than respectable and more than enough for the size of both of these. Now that's where you do actually see a difference. This is about 5 and some change inches longer than the CX-5. It's a little bit wider and it's a little bit lower. While this might suggest a more sporty character, Mazda was more so going for the outdoorsy vibe. The CX-50 backs up the looks with between 8.3 to 8.6 inches of ground clearance depending on the wheels. The CX-5 is stuck at 7.5. If you want all-terrain tires, you could just buy them, or you can get the limited run Meridian trim, which comes with a mild set of AT rubber and an aesthetic workover. If you want to pose, Mazda will offer part of the Meridian Pack's look as an accessory on other trims. While both cars feature a 6-speed auto as the sole option, the CX-50 can tow 3,500 pounds with the turbo engine or 2,000 with the base. Both CX-5 power plants tow 2,000. Briefly, I would like to thank the generous people at Royal South Mazda Volvo in Bloomington, Indiana for letting me test their new CX-50 and giving me access to the 2021 CX-5 service loaner for this comparison. If you're looking for great customer service on your next purchase, check them out. For 2022, all CX-5s got all-wheel drive standard. The same goes for the new CX-50, but only the latter gets an off-road mode standard. You have to get a high-spec premium trim in the CX-5 to get that, which helps better distribute torque side to side when off-road. And it actually produced some impressive results from what I've seen, at least for a Mazda SUV. The model next to me, as some people who really pay close attention to details, you'll notice this one is a 2021, but I'll be using insert shots of the 2022 when I'm talking about it. This does look more premium to me. I mean, it's all subjective, but I think that they did do a good job at making the CX-50 more aggressive. But tell me what you guys think. CX-5 or CX-50 when it comes to style? When it comes to starting prices, the CX-50 is only about $500 more than the CX-5 at the base level. However, as you start to climb up in the trims, you start to have to pay extra for certain things. And when you get up to the Premium Plus, that is just a more expensive model altogether. I mean, we're talking 43 grand just about after destination, and you're about 40 with the CX-5, despite the two having the same features when fully loaded. Still, these are priced similar enough to the point that they will almost always and should be cross-shopped. Did you ever think the 8 trims of the CX-5 were just not enough? Well, Mazda listened and gave you 10 for the CX-50. With 18 shared trims, pause here for pricing and such if you care. One pro for both cars, as long as you don't get the base, you will have proximity smart key unlock and lock, and the preferred trim will get you a power tailgate. But the interior is surprisingly where I think that the CX-5 starts to make a little bit more sense. The front of the Mazda CX-50 features a more modern, cohesive design when compared to the CX-5. It's more up to date with Mazda's current design language and reminds me of the Mazda 3 and CX-30 without being a carbon copy. It's very simplistic. I like the vents. It's the usual screen. It's a 10.25 inch screen. However, the base model will have the 8.8 inch screen that was first used, I think, on the Mazda 3. The CX-5 will have a 10.25 inch screen standard on all of them. However, this has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as standard, something that only will come wired on the CX-5. You don't have a full digital gauge cluster like a lot of other brands offer, and very much the whole interior is an analog experience, something that I commend Mazda for still doing in this day and age where everything seems to be going digital. And this might be controversial, but I even like the rotary dial controlling the infotainment system here. Everything kind of just falls to hand where it should. One differentiating factor here includes a standard 7-inch multifunction display in the gauge cluster, something you have to go to the premium trim for in the CX-5. But if you compare it to the CX-5, I think it was honestly just a little bit better in terms of ergonomics. The biggest reason is visibility. Now, I don't think this is as off-putting as the CX-30 with, it's really tiny windows, but this does still feel more closed off than the CX-5, and that's something that a lot of people don't like in this segment, so I don't know why Mazda keeps doing that. This is all very CX-30 to me, except surprisingly, and maybe they're doing it because they want this to be a more rugged SUV, but you have hard touch plastics where your knees will rest, which in basically every other Mazda is soft touch. This might sound like I'm nitpicking, but depending on your height and preferred driving position, your knees will rest on them, and I appreciate that about the CX-5. Additionally, it feels like I have less knee and hip room here, as if the console or door panel sticks out more, which makes this small critique more prevalent. And the grab handle is also just hard plastic too, something that isn't the case in most other Mazda products. And really, overall, this interior is something that I like, and I'll talk all about it in the full review. But if we're talking differences, you have less soft touch materials where you'd really want it than in the CX-5, you have less visibility than you have in the CX-5, you get less features for the same money, and it feels more cramped. But the whole thing is far from unimpressive. This feels just as well put together and looks more fresh. Mazda tweaked the seats for the 2022 CX-5, and after driving both for a little while, the CX-50 seats are more firm and bolstered than the CX-5, but don't pinch my shoulders or make me feel uncomfortable. I could use more thigh support, but I'm 6'3" and I feel these would be sufficient for a longer journey. On the other hand, the CX-5 is going to have more plush seats all around with less bolstering that might be a little awkward for some people. Also, the center console in here, one very soft, but it's a split folding one, which is kind of interesting. Before we hop in the back, let's quickly jump in the CX-5. The front of the CX-5 features a different design language altogether, but it's one that I think, again, is a little bit more approachable than the CX-50, and honestly a little bit more comfortable due to the just extra padding. And just like the CX-50, you'll get leatherette seating if you just step up to the select trim, and both of them will get power adjustable seating with lumbar control if you step up to the preferred trim. And other features come at similar trim levels between the two, but if you want your front seats heated, the CX-5 will do it at the select. CX-50 urges you to go preferred. Similar cases happen further up in the trims with the heated rear seats, the heated steering wheel, and wireless phone charger, along with a couple others. The CX-50 offers other things in exchange though, some of which are big, like the speakers. You have just 4 speakers on the base CX-5, and then you get 6 speakers on the other trims until you get up to the premium, which has the Bose 10-speaker unit, which I'm sorry to throw out all these numbers at you, but you'll get 8 speakers if you get the CX-50, and that's gonna be a very noticeable difference. If you care about music at all, you're gonna really want the 8 speakers. So I think if you're going for a base model, I think the CX-50 is the one I would personally choose. And you'll get 12 speakers if you upgrade to the Bose, so 2 more than what you get here. And I can confirm that this is a great setup that definitely reflects the 36 grand price tag of a premium trim CX-50. Additionally, while both of them kind of look like they're stuck on, I think the screen is just a little bit better integrated into the CX-50. And you have the newer rotary dial setup in the CX-50, whereas this still has the previous gen, which does still offer nice, satisfying feedback, but it does date itself a little bit more. And really, the whole interior does look like it's from 2017, because it is. At this point, you might think I'm one of those car guys out here saying, "Bring back the old Mazda. I love my 2003 Protege. 43 grand, ooh-wee, I never." Why won't she reply? Truly, this is a question of your needs. Once you get past the front seat, the CX-50 makes its case. This is where the CX-50 improves. Legroom. I have actually enough space to fit my knees behind the front seat. It's not as cavernous as some of the other competitors that are actually smaller than this, but this is one of those things that if your priority is a bigger back seat, the CX-50 is going to win over the CX-5. Additionally, both cars have great wide opening rear doors, which is very helpful for families. All CX-50s and CX-5s will have the rear vents here, and heated rear seats will come on the Turbo Premium Plus models. something you can get on the regular Premium Plus CX-5. The CX-50 does have less headroom than the CX-5 due to the pano roof not being available on the CX-5 and the more sporty roofline, but it's still spacious. Now to the CX-5. I'm 6'3". I'm putting the front seat in a comfortable yet not excessive position for both of these, and I'm really trying to eliminate any variables here. This is definitely smaller, but still workable. The floor is low in both of these, so I have a pretty good thigh support for a back seat. I can put my knees into the back here, or I can put them out to the side and I'll fit. And I do have more than enough headroom, a lot better than in the CX-50. But you know, with some car seats, especially like reverse facing ones, it might be pretty snug back here for those. The back of the CX-50 is where we notice the advantage of the extra length here. And I'll use some of my equipment here to illustrate that. But while it is a little bit longer, it's actually lost a little bit in width, and it doesn't seem quite as tall either. So we do see an advantage here, but it's not as big of one as I was kind of hoping, but maybe it's enough for most of you, except you do lose one feature that I really liked, which was the 40-20-40 split rear seat in the CX-5. You only get a 60-40 here, but you still get seat releases, just not on the base trim. Funny enough, due to the cargo area actually being a little bit shorter and more narrow, the CX-5 has more cargo space when you fold down the rear seats. So I really can't label the trunk as a W for the CX-50. One last thing that I'd like to reiterate here before we leave is priorities. Me personally, I don't need a big back seat. So when I see that this retains a mostly practical figure, good visibility, excellent driving dynamics, I'm gonna probably lean towards the CX-5. But if you're someone who really values style or backseat space, or you plan on doing some more camping with your Mazda SUV, the CX-50 will probably be your better bet. And after driving the CX-50, I think the CX-5 was more playful and responsive, with the CX-50 still feeling natural, a tad better insulated, and more commanding on the road. Overall, both are excellent, but I can't fight the feeling that the CX-50 compromises in places that it doesn't need to, and in ways that I think make it a little less approachable than its sibling, despite it being more practical and modern. While I think a lot of people out there will love this, especially the people who really wanted the CX-5 but needed something with a bigger back seat, my worry that this would cannibalize the sales of the CX-5 has diminished some. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and hit the bell for notifications, as my full CX-50 review will be dropping here soon. I'd also like to thank my Patreons for helping support the channel. I'll link that below if you'd like to join the cause, as I'm trying to branch out and make more car content. I'll catch you in the next one.